Back at the inn, Hibiki and the others had just wrapped up dinner and were feeling stuffed after eating so much. After a short silence, Hibiki turned to Claude and Lillian and revealed that he wanted to journey to Terradinas in hopes of finding a way back to his original world. The moment Lillian heard this, sadness appeared on her face. Noticing her reaction, Hibiki quickly explained that he had no intention of leaving anyone behind. He promised that he would search for a method to return home without abandoning Claude, Lillian, or Vine. Although he had no clue how he could achieve something so difficult, he believed that with everyone working together, they would eventually find a solution. Curious about the people Hibiki missed from his former world, Lillian asked him who they were. Hibiki smiled softly and explained that they were his family and close friends. He shared memories of the time they spent together enjoying themselves and drinking black tea, usually at a cafe owned by one of his friends' families where they often gathered. Claude then stepped forward and mentioned that if Hibiki remembered them with such affection, they were probably worried sick about him. Hibiki nodded in agreement, admitting that it was likely true. Still, he added that having Claude, Lillian, and the others beside him in this new world kept him from feeling lonely at all. The following day, the group headed to the guild and informed Jewel and Deliard about their fierce battle against the Silver Diamond Wolf. Deliard was visibly impressed that they had managed to defeat such a dangerous monster without suffering any major injuries. However, he also pointed out that he heard Hibiki had collapsed during the fight because he had exhausted all of his stamina. Without hesitation, the muscular warrior began flexing proudly and invited Hibiki to train with him in order to improve his physical strength. Before he could continue any further, Jewel instantly froze Deliard's head inside a block of ice before calmly shifting her attention back to the group. She explained that the true reason she summoned them was to discuss the reward for defeating the Silver Diamond Wolf. The moment Hibiki looked at the payment slip, he was stunned by the enormous amount written on it. Jewel clarified that the reward was exceptionally high because the group had protected the town from a creature capable of causing massive destruction and many casualties. She further explained that the Silver Diamond Wolf was an incredibly dangerous monster, so powerful that even someone as skilled as Deliard would have struggled to defeat it alone. Because of that, Jewel encouraged Hibiki to accept the reward without holding back. After hearing her explanation, Hibiki gratefully accepted the payment and told the others that they could finally begin preparing properly for their next objective, exploring the dungeon. Without wasting any time, the group headed to the Debbie Company. The moment they arrived, Debbie somehow seemed able to sense that Hibiki was carrying a large amount of money. Excited by the opportunity, he greeted them with another one of his bizarre dances before proudly welcoming them into his weapons showroom. As they looked around, everyone was amazed by the huge selection of high-quality weapons and equipment displayed throughout the shop. Hibiki quickly found something that caught his attention and selected the Wind Layer tunic jacket. He believed the wind magic woven into the outfit would improve his speed and make it easier to dodge attacks during combat. Lillian eventually chose a Blossom Wand, a magical staff designed to enhance spellcasting efficiency and improve control over magic. Watching them choose their equipment filled Debbie with excitement, since he knew a huge sale was coming. Debbie then announced that the combined price of both items was 1,200 gold coins. Hibiki glanced at Claude, expecting him to think the price was outrageous. Instead, Claude calmly shook Debbie's hand, fully aware that equipment of that quality was actually being sold at a bargain. Afterward, Claude selected a new set of armor for himself. However, Hibiki immediately noticed that the armor left Claude's abdomen exposed, so he questioned whether it would truly provide enough protection. Debbie quickly explained that the armor had been enchanted with strengthening magic, giving it defensive capabilities comparable to a complete suit of armor despite the exposed areas. Wanting to verify the claim, Hibiki used his appraisal ability and confirmed that Debbie was telling the truth. When he later asked Claude about his weapon choice, Claude picked up a magnetic spear. The weapon possessed the ability to manipulate and direct a barrage of blades toward enemies, while also interfering with the movement of an opponent's sword during battle. Debbie was shocked by how quickly Hibiki understood the weapon's abilities just from examining it. Once he learned that Hibiki's appraisal skill had already reached level 5, He became even more impressed and immediately broke into another strange dance, praising Hibiki for becoming such a skilled appraiser at such a young age. Hibiki could not help but complain to the chief god for never mentioning this earlier. The chief god casually admitted fault and brushed it off as if it were no big deal. During their conversation, the deity also informed Hibiki that he had unlocked an upgraded version of the relief measure skill, news that Hibiki was happy to hear. After purchasing all of their new equipment, the group traveled to an open field to test out their abilities. Hoping the upgraded skill would finally work as intended, Hibiki activated the enhanced relief measure on Claude, expecting it to completely remove his curse. Instead of removing Claude's curse like Hibiki expected, the upgraded skill unexpectedly summoned a tiny rabbit named Carbuncle, the sacred beast that serves the chief god. The moment Hibiki saw the fluffy creature, he rushed over and immediately started petting him because of how adorable he looked. Lillian quickly joined in, and together, they decided to shorten his name and call him Car. Watching Hibiki shower Car with affection made Claude unbelievably jealous. His irritation became so intense that he nearly shattered the cursed chains restraining him through emotion alone. Seeing this strange reaction, Hibiki began to suspect that Claude's sudden emotional outburst might somehow be connected to the effects of the upgraded relief measure skill. Before anyone could continue, V smacked everyone on the head and scolded Car for fooling around instead of focusing on the task at hand. She ordered him to stop wasting time and properly use the relief measure on Claude. Obeying immediately, Car activated a skill called Good Luck Catcher. Two massive divine hands suddenly appeared from thin air and reached toward Claude, successfully breaking two of the cursed chains binding him. Hibiki was thrilled to see the skill finally working and rewarded Car with playful belly rubs and tickles. Claude sincerely thanked Hibiki for helping weaken his curse, but Hibiki pointed out that Car deserved most of the credit. Even so, Claude still looked annoyed, mostly because Car had stolen all of Hibiki's attention. Meanwhile, Car remained completely confused about why Claude seemed so upset with him. Hibiki assumed that Car would now travel alongside them as a new companion, but the sacred beast politely declined before casually returning home. The next day, the summer heat became unbearable for everyone, especially Claude because of the thick fur covering his body. Wanting to help, Hibiki suggested trimming some of his fur to keep him cooler. Lillian immediately grabbed a pair of scissors, ready to help, but V suddenly offered a different solution. Using her magic, Lillian created soft, floating bubbles of water that surrounded everyone and helped cool them down despite the scorching weather. Around that time, Tanya arrived at their room looking completely exhausted from the heat as well. Hibiki quickly used his bubble wash skill on her, splashing her with refreshing cool water. Unfortunately, the sudden splash caused her gown to lift slightly, prompting Hibiki to awkwardly suggest that she consider wearing underwear next time. Later on, Hibiki decided to search for a better long-term solution to deal with the extreme heat. Both Claude and Lillian wanted to accompany him, but Claude still needed rest after partially breaking his curse. Because of that, Hibiki asked Lillian to remain behind and look after Claude while he traveled with Venesteed instead. As they journeyed under the blazing sun, the heat became increasingly unbearable until they unexpectedly encountered Debbie along the road. Hibiki immediately wondered how Debbie was staying perfectly comfortable despite the weather. Debbie proudly explained that he was wearing one of the Debbie Company's premium products known as the Cloak of the Everlasting Spring, a magical cloak capable of keeping its wearer cool regardless of temperature. Unfortunately, Debbie admitted that the company had completely sold out of the item. Hoping to find another solution, Hibiki visited the guild to ask Jewel about it. She explained that the cloak possessed adjustable temperature control enchantments and could only be crafted using a rare flower called the Blue Flitch Rua. Since Hibiki had no idea where to find such flowers, Jewel informed him that they grew deep within the eastern forest. However, she warned him that the forest paths were confusing and difficult to navigate, so she offered to personally guide him there. While traveling through the forest together, Jewel pointed out that Hibiki was going through a great deal of effort just to help Claude and Lillian. Hibiki replied that this was simply his way of repaying them for always supporting and protecting him whenever things became difficult. Joel admitted that his way of thinking was genuinely kind-hearted. Not long afterward, they arrived at a hidden garden filled with the exact flowers Hibiki needed. By evening, Hibiki returned to the inn where Claude and Lillian happily greeted him. He mentioned feeling hungry before realizing it was still too early for dinner. Lillian then handed him a small bag containing black tea and freshly baked scones. After tasting them, Hibiki found them incredibly delicious. At first, he wondered why they had specifically prepared black tea, but then he remembered the story he had told them earlier about visiting his friend's cafe back in his original world. Realizing they remembered something so personal deeply touched him. Around the same time, Hibiki decided to check Lillian's stats for the first time in a while. To his surprise, she had advanced into the Sage class. Lillian admitted she did not feel much different after evolving, but Claude reassured her that she would gradually come to understand her growth over time. Hibiki also discovered that his grimoire skill had leveled up as well. Excited by this development, he immediately used it on Vine in order to expand her magical knowledge further. Once the process was complete, Hibiki respectfully bowed to her, eager to continue learning stronger forms of magic in the future. Eventually, the day of departure arrived, and Debbie had already prepared a carriage for their journey. Tanya looked saddened to see them leaving and asked them to visit again someday. Before departing, Hibiki gifted Claude and Lillian each a cloak of the everlasting spring. Both of them were incredibly grateful that he had gone through so much trouble for their comfort. Soon after, Deliard appeared, and he and Claude instantly prepared to fight once again. Fortunately, Chwell stepped in before things escalated and calmly stopped the confrontation before wishing the group farewell. With everything finally settled, the group boarded the carriage and began traveling toward their next destination, the Northern Dungeon. Meanwhile, Ival secretly listened to their conversation from the shadows and quietly wished for them to perish inside the Northern Dungeon, claiming it would ultimately benefit the world. Elsewhere, a town was under attack by hordes of undead creatures, spreading chaos everywhere. Just as the situation seemed hopeless, a group called the Corpse Killers arrived and swiftly eliminated the undead threat. After the battle, the group questioned whether they were truly heading in the correct direction, since they had encountered undead enemies non-stop throughout their journey. Tiki reassured everyone that they were indeed following the proper path because the guiding spirit continued leading them forward. Hearing this, Kyoko concluded that Hibiki must be somewhere farther ahead along the same route. The group then hoped they would be able to reunite with him soon before he encountered even more dangerous undead monsters. That concludes episode 8. Be sure to subscribe so you do not miss the next part, and check out the following video as well.